Alright guys, so Prince Harry put out a memoir called Spare. I reviewed this book, and I'll drop a link to my review in the description, but just so we're clear, the main idea of this whole thing with the spare, the name refers to the adage, the heir and the spare. On the day that their father, Charles, passes, Harry is the second in line to succeed him, behind Harry's older brother, William. Now, after having reviewed this book, deciding to name his memoir Spare, to me, tells the reader or listener how almost painfully aware he is of his technical place in the royal family. Now, I love this book. It was open, vulnerable, vivid, and so beautifully written. It might actually end up being one of my favorites this year, but there were some issues I had with it. And I'm gonna disclose those 3 issues in this video. I didn't really mention any of them whatsoever in my review. In fact, if Spare doesn't end up on that list of my favorites, it will be mainly for these reasons. I didn't think this was a perfect memoir, and as my following grows, especially with more well-publicized books like this one, I find it important for you guys to know what to look out for if you're on the fence about buying a work like this one. Just so you guys know, there are affiliate links in the description, and if you guys buy anything through those links, like maybe this book, then I get commission, which helps me build this channel and keep making these videos. The first issue I have with Spare by Prince Harry is the ghostwriter. Now, hear me out with this, please. Yes, giving credit where credit is due, Spare was ghostwritten by a guy named J.R. Moringer. And I didn't know this until right, of course, after I posted my review of it. However, I found using a ghostwriter to be the biggest red flag on this list by a landslide. Everyone has their own philosophy on ghostwriters. Spare taught me that my perspective on ghostwriting is purely contextual. The biggest case of ghostwriting that I've seen in nonfiction on my journey with you guys was David Goggins with his 2 books, Can't Hurt Me and Never Finished. Both audiobooks were narrated by their ghostwriter. The ghostwriter actually interviewed Goggins in between chapters. It was transparent. Goggins was openly involved, and that alone even still pissed off a bunch of his fans. But when I found out about it, I was like, at least it was disclosed. No mention of a ghostwriter, to my knowledge, was done in Spare at all. And the most depressing thing about it is that the writing was my absolute favorite thing by far about this book. No one at all who I saw who disliked Spare said anything about the writing at all.
They were just hating on Prince Harry.
And now I was under the impression there wasn't a ghostwriter because admittedly, I guess I'm just so used to people writing and narrating their own memoirs nowadays. What's more, I find that to not put such specific occurrences in your own words, what makes this a little bit of an exception, for one, is that it's a ferociously detailed book. It takes a lot of the actual you out of it. It's one thing though, if you need someone else's help to kind of polish everything up, but is it so important that the other person is not listed as even a co-writer or thanked somewhere in the book, even vaguely, as opposed to writing it himself? Is it really in his words? And it kind of begs the question, does it have to be? But more importantly, why is it contextual, Sam? What is so special about this that you think he shouldn't have a ghostwriter, he doesn't need one, or if he does need one, it should be disclosed? Well, for starters, people do judge a book by its cover. They do, and really think about this. This is not just any book. And when I say contextual, this is primarily what I'm speaking of. This book sold 3.2 million copies in its first week of release, more than any other book ever written, period. Do you know what that means? It means that probably 3.2 million people saw it at a store, online or in person. They looked at the cover and they thought to themselves, you know what? I'm gonna buy this. And at some point in the process, that cover was staring every single one of them right in the face. But you know what's on that cover? On the bottom, the word Spare, which we went over, is about Harry and Harry alone. On top, Prince Harry in big letters. Not to mention the entire cover is literally a beautifully shot and edited picture of his face. Hey guys, he's a handsome dude. Say what you want about him. But you see what I'm saying, right? That whole cover is Prince Harry and nothing else. He didn't write it or anything, but he also didn't say that at any point, did he? Maybe he did and I didn't notice, but it wasn't in the end credits, and that's just about always when they'll mention it. And seriously, 3.2 million copies? Not even the first week anymore. Who knows? It's probably sold 4 by now. You would think he'd be a little bit more eager to share that for the sake of, I don't know, maybe his personal reputation or credibility. I mean, he narrated the audiobook, and of course, If you look at the Audible cover, it says narrated by the author. Do you guys think it's odd for me to be so put off by this for these reasons? Please let me know in the comments below, because I know that this is just my perspective, and I'm sure that anyone could just as easily argue,
Who cares?
why does that even matter?
It's just a book. Sam, let him do what he wants. He's frickin' Prince frickin' Harry, for crying out loud.
Prince Harry had me fooled, I'll tell you that much. And by the way, I looked into this. This J.R. Moringer dude, I really admire him. He is the highest paid ghostwriter in the business of autobiographies. He ghostwrote Open by Andre Agassi and Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, which I didn't even know. One of my favorite memoirs ever. But Agassi, he said that no matter how many times he asked and mentioned it, Moringer was like,
No, bro.
I don't care what you say. I don't care if I wrote the whole damn thing. Do not give me any credit. This is your memoir, not mine. It's your story and not mine. Now, maybe Moringer, maybe he did this with Prince Harry, and maybe that's why he wasn't mentioned, but Agassi still thanked him at the end of his own memoir, saying it would not exist without Moringer's help. He didn't say, Moringer wrote this, Moringer ghost wrote this. He just said it wouldn't exist without his help. Isn't that enough? Isn't that transparent enough? To me, it would be, especially with the volume and scope of this one's popularity. I just don't know why Prince Harry could not have done something like this. I just don't get it. The second problem I have is the proceeds disclosure. All right, guys, if you do me a favor, okay, and check out this 416-page long book that will take most people how long to read, you'll notice at the end credits that they put a rather vague disclosure saying just about verbatim that he wishes to support British charities with donations from his proceeds from Spare, with no disclosed amounts. It also says in the past he has donated $1.5 million to Sentabali, an organization he founded himself with Prince Seeiso, I think that's how you pronounce it, in their mother's legacies to support vulnerable children in Lesotho and Botswana affected by HIV/AIDS. And they also said he will donate to the nonprofit Well Child £300,000. I don't know why they mentioned dollars and then pounds. That is the equivalent to $371,669.70. Well Child, and they also mentioned he has been a loyal patron of it for 15 years, makes it possible for children and young people with complex health needs to be cared for at home instead of whatever hospital. That is literally all it says whatsoever about proceeds and donating those proceeds in the end credits. It does not say anything else. It doesn't even tie those proceeds into the $1.5 million or the $300,000. They just casually brought it up, like, well, he has donated $1.5 million to Sentabali and will donate 300,000 pounds to Well Child. I don't know, any book with the popularity this one has, it's just something that you have to make an exception for. But if you're gonna claim,
Well, I wish to support British charities
with donations from my proceeds, which charities? I'm not saying we need details, but I'm sure a lot of us would probably appreciate it. This is our money. We would maybe like to know where it goes for the amount we're paying, and this is not a cheap book either. Why didn't they just mention like a quick list or something at the beginning? Something like to thank you for all your support. We are donating the stupid amount of money you're giving us toward smart, sensible causes like helping kids in Africa who are suffering from this, kids in Britain who are suffering from this, etc. And if you're just gonna say like charity, like Tony Robbins does with his millions of book sales, at least say you're donating like 100% or some percentage. That way it puts people at ease. You know how many hate comments this has gotten about like,
he has all these millions of dollars he's making from the book and he's so selfish and all this stuff.
If he mentioned that at the very beginning of the book, I can't imagine how many of those people wouldn't be saying it. Books like these, they're so commonly written by multimillionaires, and I don't understand why they're not transparent about this if it's the case. Does this not bother anyone else? I really think that I might be just
Going crazy here.
and I'm posting this video to confirm with you guys that perhaps I'm not. He's getting a lot of hate for Spare, and I don't think that everyone is just hating to hate. And my third and last reason is lack of perspective. This is my smallest problem with Spare. I'll explain why. It's actually a small enough problem that I wouldn't 100% consider it a problem. If you don't care about any of this stuff, I'm sure that none of it is a problem. A lot of people in negative reviews are spilling out words like privilege, whiny, self-pity, self-contradictory, contradictory, pity party, finger pointing, resentment, allegations, disgraceful, woe is me. Guys, I checked out this book. I very much enjoyed it. Please take it from me. If a lot of people are saying these things about your book and you came from where Prince Harry did, your perspective is lacking. Let's just face it. If it weren't, don't you think it would show up enough in Spare that they're like, you know, this guy may have kind of just run away from an extremely powerful and seemingly escapable family situation, but at least he understood what damage he caused. He knew what needed to be done to make things right. He did it. He still got what he wanted. He's still doing charity work. He's still with the, you know, his dream girl. They're still in the US. They're still in good standing with the rest of the royal family. And they're working on everything else that needs to be worked on. And this is a story, by the way, that they would definitely put in history books. This is a story that people like Ryan Holiday, Robert Greene, and Malcolm Gladwell, maybe even Brene Brown or Susan Cain, would have told in their works, teaching readers to be more effective, efficient, and virtuous human beings. You would think that this is something that Harry wouldn't just travel the world and meet hundreds of thousands of people and experience all these things and live to tell the tales just to leave undone. And by the way, I don't think that there's no hope. I think they can still work on things. Never say never. Nothing's impossible. Now, the reason I don't say that I'm entirely sure this is a problem is that the autobiography, the audiobook, is just, it is his perspective. It's not yours and it's not mine. It's his memoir. It's not yours, it's not mine. It's not the family's and it's not Meghan's. It's not the damn tabloids and it's not the readers or listeners. It's Prince Harry's. So technically, I'm not sure that it needs more perspective exactly than just his, but just his could use definitely some expansion just for the sake of listenability. And if you give Spare a go, you might just notice that hiding beneath that beautiful and unmistakably clean-cut writing. But those are my problems with the book Spare, the memoir by Prince Harry. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Did you guys have any issues with this book? What were they specifically? Do you guys agree with me? Do you disagree with me? If you checked out my review or if you checked out the book, what did you think? Did you actually like it? Was there anything else that bugged you about it? Other than that, please check out my review. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a big thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, because I don't get why people watch this far into my videos and they don't subscribe. But if you have subscribed and you want to turn it up just a notch and turn on that notification bell to get a notification whenever I drop new videos, that would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere and I will see you then.